everyone, and thank you for attending this Practice Pay Business Mastery Series webinar. My name is Carol Vickers, and I'm from Empower Consulting Group, and we work with the team from Practice Pay to facilitate these learning webinars. Practice Pay Solutions is definitely committed to the success of its members with both the solutions that are available as well as ongoing education and development programs and webinars. And www.practicepaysolutions is the place to go for more information. And today we are delighted to welcome Allison Babb Phillips to our webinar. She's been nominated as Business Coach of the Year. Allison is the founder of GreatSmallBusinessAdvice.com and has been internationally recognized for her keen ability to reveal untapped revenue opportunities in professional service businesses. Allison delivers powerful strategies for consistently attracting new clients into your business in the shortest time possible. After over 20 years in the corporate world, Allison left her senior management position and put her talents to work as an entrepreneur. Many of us will appreciate that. Her success has been featured on CNN, CBS, NBC, ABC, Fox, The Wall Street Journal, and other national news media. Allison was also featured on the cover of People, You Need to Know magazine, Atlanta's premier magazine featuring successful businesswomen. Allison is an award-winning author as well who teaches business owners around the world how to create a client-magnetic business. That's a business where customers are chasing after you instead of you chasing after them. Known for her upbeat and down-to-earth style, Allison consistently provides a rich source of unique revenue-generating insights on how to create the success and freedom you want in your business. Allison, we are so looking forward to your presentation today. Thank you for sharing your brilliance with us.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. Awesome. Let's get started. Welcome everybody to How to Turn Prospects into Paying Clients, and I hope that what I have to share with you today will be immensely helpful to you in growing your business. As we get started, I just wanted to let you know that there is a handout at this link, greatsmallbusinessadvice.com. PPS handout stands for, so PPS is Practice Pay Solutions. PPS handout, and again, for those of you who may be on the phone, I don't know if anyone's on the phone, so it's greatsmallbusinessadvice.com/P as in Peter, P as in Peter, S as in Sam, handout. And you can download the handout there and follow along as we go through. I know sometimes I go really, really fast and people are trying to keep up, so I made sure I had a handout there for you so that you can follow along with what I'm going to be revealing to you today.
And that link, Allison, is also in the chat box. So if people want to click on there, they'll go directly to it.
Cool. So the link is also in the chat box, and you guys can grab it there as well. Okay, and at the end I'll share with you a free gift worth $197 that you can access at the end of the webinar as well. Real quickly, a little bit about me. I was in corporate America for about 22 years, and the last job I had, I was actually at that company for 18 years. I was a senior manager of a technical support department of about 80 people. At the time, I was earning a salary of under $200,000 and just under $200,000, and was running a department of about 80 people. I had about 10 managers reporting to me. Very successful and also very unfulfilled. I'm sure some of you can identify with that. Some of you on the line who have left corporate America or who are considering leaving corporate America, you can identify with what I felt. I was very successful and did not hate my job at all. I actually loved the company that I worked with, loved the job that I had, but just had a growing sense of feeling unfulfilled and ended up leaving that job. Now, when I left that job, I wish I could tell you that it was awesome and my business took off, but I had a lot of snags in the road, mainly because I left that job without knowing much at all about marketing. I knew just enough to get me some speaking gigs and all that, but not enough to create the level of success that I wanted right out the gates. And there were some sleepless nights. There were some times when I felt like I failed my kids. And at the time, I was a single mom. When I walked away from that job, I was actually a single mom. and was very scared about what was happening inside my business and what was not happening inside my business as well. So a lot of what I went through, I'm sure some of you can identify with, is just that having that confusion about what does it take to actually create the level of success that you desire. For me, my path to success was really hiring a lot of really, really successful mentors. My aha moment was realizing, okay, so I don't know what I'm doing here to grow this business, but I bet you there's at least one person who's created a seven-figure business like mine in my industry of business coaching. And if I could just find them and ask them to mentor me or coach me, then I'll be able to skip past all of these unnecessary mistakes. And like a lot of you, I spent the first couple of years in business doing the trial and error method, which is let me just kind of leave myself open to what somebody tells me might work. Try that. If it doesn't, try something else. If that doesn't work, try something else. Which is the slow path to business success, of course, but there I was and decided failure was not an option for me. I need to find the path to success and do so pretty quickly. So my path to success was really investing very heavily in very successful mentors. My mentors were usually multi-6- and seven-figure entrepreneurs, and I just kind of hired them to coach me. They didn't come cheap. All of my mentors are anywhere between $15,000 and $25,000 a year, and so that's the rate at which I invested in myself each year. But I wouldn't, that's not a requirement as long as you make the decision to invest in yourself to the extent that you want to see yourself successful, okay? So for you, it's really just asking yourself, what is missing in my business right now, and how can I access the skills to create the level of success in that area. I always say when I'm speaking that there is no challenge or problem that you are experiencing in your business right now for which the answer does not already exist. So if the answer exists for whatever problem you can identify, then really the only action to take as a business owner is to access the answer. And that comes in the form of investing in yourself, and so that's what I did. And I still do. I invest in myself to the tune of anywhere between $25,000 and $50,000 a year, working with mentors to really help me create the level of success that I want. Once I figured out that there is a step-by-step approach for creating the results that I wanted, for me, the first thing that I do once I figure something out is go spread the word to everyone I know. And so I ended up on TV shows and radio shows and doing a lot of live events and all of that, really just sharing with people what is required to create the success that they want. And was recently awarded the Business Coach of the Year award, and that was an honor as well. Was also featured on the cover of People You Need to Know magazine here in Atlanta, also a real honor. That was a magazine that really is all about sharing success stories as a business owner, sharing inspirational and success stories. If you guys want to access the article that I wrote in that magazine, you can go to greatsmallbusinessadvice.com/magazine, and you'll see the front cover and a couple other pages that I was in, and also the article that I wrote as well. Was also featured, my training course, integrity-based sales training, was featured in international media as well, and a lot of what I'm going to share with you today is actually right out of that particular training. More recently, and this is hot off the press as of last Friday, October 4th, I launched my own show online, which is the Business Transformation Show, and I'll be doing a show every single Friday. Ironically, the person that I am coaching on this show this coming Friday is looking for my help and guidance with how to close more sales and how to turn prospects into paying clients. I'm actually going to be doing some live business makeovers and doing some coaching with her. This show is kind of a blend of who I am, which is a lot of mindset stuff, a lot of spiritual stuff, and a lot of business stuff. It's really a blend of all of those. And if you go to thebusinesstransformationshow.com, there'll be a link there for the launch episode, which was very, very spiritual because it's a spiritual breakthrough I had, and really it is what birthed this show. So if you want to take a look at that, you can. This is my family today. I'm no longer a single mom. I'm married to my wonderful husband, Donnell, who is in the Coast Guard and inherited a daughter. Although she lives with her mom in Baltimore, so I don't see her that much. We see her on holidays and during summer vacations as well. But glad to finally experience a teeny little bit of what it's like to raise a daughter. Part of my challenge as a business owner was the sales process. What my greatest challenge was really not feeling authentic in how I was being taught to have sales conversations. And so for me, I was always searching for something else because what I was being taught felt inauthentic to me. And the when you hear a lot of sales training, a lot of it includes a lot of manipulative tactics and one-liners to close people and how to corner people, and if they say this, and if they say that. And for me, I just had to be real and authentic in the conversation. And you know what I found is when I dropped all of the scripts and all that and just was myself in the conversation, I didn't get a whole lot of pushback from prospects. And that's one of the discoveries that I made, is when I was completely authentic and didn't try to force anything on anybody and just really had a conversation with people about how I could potentially help them. The things that people call objections, I didn't get a whole lot of that anymore because people sensed my authenticity and really was real with me. And if they didn't have the money, I didn't have to corner them. I would invite them to think of ways that they may. I would literally partner with them to come up with ways, if I felt like they really wanted that, to come up with ways to invest in the program that they wanted to invest in. But it wasn't from a manipulative place. It was like, hey, I'd love to support you in enrolling in the program that you want to enroll in if you choose. And if people don't choose, then I move on, So that was a real revelation for me, which really confirmed for me that I can be myself in the sales conversation. I didn't have to rig up any kind of sales pitch to close people. And I don't believe also in closing people either, so that's another thing that we'll talk about today. So a quick overview about what we're about to go through here. Key myths and mistakes in sales and selling. How to attract the prospects who will be hungry for what you sell. How to authentically inspire hunger and desire for your services when you meet your ideal prospects. What to say in a sales conversation to turn prospects into paying clients. What causes prospects to instinctively say, how can I get started working with you? So we're going to get through all of that today. Let's see here. Okay, so one of the mistakes is really believing that your credentials is what causes people to buy. And that's not the case at all. A lot of times people put all their credentials up front, like I'm going to do, I got this, award, and this thing, and this thing, and this thing. And in the sales conversation, it's not really necessary. If you're doing a presentation like this, that's fine. Share your credentials. I did up front. But when you're in a sales conversation, when I'm in a sales conversation with somebody, I'm not talking about what awards I won and what things are behind my name. None of that ever comes up because it's not necessary to closing the sale. And we'll talk about what you can do instead as we go along. The other myth is that you have to talk up your products and your services. It's saying, my product got this award, my product got that, my product got this. And it really isn't helpful to the sales conversation and doesn't really increase the number of people who will buy from you. So this is also not necessary. We're believing that what we're selling is a product and a service, and it isn't. And people are never buying a product, they're never buying a service, but we end up talking a lot about what's fabulous about the good or the product or service, and that is not why people buy. So we'll talk about what actually inspires people to buy in a second. Another mistake is scripts, sales scripts. I don't do sales scripts. I do regular old conversations. And one of my things that I say is that scripts repel and conversations sell. And that's been my experience. A lot of times people are using rehearsed sales scripts. Here's what I felt when I used sales scripts. I felt like I was undermining my own credibility because I'm saying the exact same thing, even though every single person that shows up is slightly different, right? Human beings are never the same. And even if people are all coming to me to, attract new clients and close more sales, everyone has a different experience around that. Like the woman I'm interviewing on my show on Friday, her experience is entirely different than somebody else I may interview next week Friday around sales and selling, and the challenge is very unique to each person. For me, if I go into the conversation with a script, it means I already have something I'm going to say to you before I even know what you want or need. And to me, that felt incongruent, so I completely threw out sales scripts and rehearsals of sales scripts and all of that. This is something people, when I say it, people go, what? What do you mean? I do not go into the sales conversation trying to close the sale, because for me, that's another point of feeling incongruent and also feeling inauthentic. Because if I'm going into the conversation with the intent to close the sale, then what I'm really saying is, it doesn't matter to me who you are or what you need, my job is to close you. And for me, that felt completely inauthentic, because honestly, I don't know if you are the right prospect for me. I don't know if you're the right client for me until I have a conversation with you. I don't know if I'm the right coach for you until I have a conversation with you. I've had many conversations with business owners where at the end I say, I appreciate what you're trying to address, but honestly, I don't think I would be the right coach for you based on what you just shared, and here's why. And I've had people say, but I really, really, really want to work with you. And I've had to say to them, I get that, but I think it would be a disservice to both you and myself, because I don't think it's a really good fit. So I don't see how you can enter the conversation with the intent to close the sale when you don't know the person. So that's a mistake that felt inauthentic to me, and that's why I corrected that part of how I go through sales conversations. Another myth is that anyone is the right fit for you. And it's interesting, I did this presentation in front of a live audience about 2 weeks ago, and I was listening to each person go around the room and introduce themselves, and there were a couple of people that sold beauty products, and their statement was, well, anybody with skin basically is a really good fit for me. And that's actually not true. I have skin and I don't buy a whole lot of beauty products, okay? So if somebody came to me trying to sell me beauty products, they'd be barking up the wrong tree, because I have used one thing. I'm 48 years old. I've used one thing every night before I go to bed, a bar of Dove soap, and that's it. I've never used anything else. Anything else I try to use, I might use it for a week or two, and then I ditch it, okay? So I'm not the kind of person that would buy a ton of, facial products and a big nighttime routine that has 4 or 5 steps and, all these different things. I tried it. I never stick with it. So my point here is, and I would say the same thing for, me as a business coach. Because I'm a business coach doesn't mean everybody with a business is the right fit for me. I know that my client is somebody who is typically a female entrepreneur who's selling a service, a coach, a consultant, CPA, bookkeeper, web designer, social media consultant, online business manager, virtual assistant. All of those are good fits for me. A female entrepreneur who's selling a service. Now, I have male clients as well, but I already know from my own research that women tend to respond way better to my message and what I share and how I share it than men do. That's just the way it shook out. For whatever reason, was unintentional. But I know that my marketing efforts should be focused on women. And so a lot of the places that I speak are women entrepreneurial groups, not because I don't want to service men, but because my data is telling me that the perfect fit for me is a woman entrepreneur. Like I said, I have male clients as well, but you have to pay attention to who's already attracted to what you're trying to sell. The other mistake, actually no, those were all the mistakes, right? Yeah, I covered them all. So let's talk about how to attract prospects who are hungry for what you sell. This is your ability to recognize when your sales effort is barking up the wrong tree. If you're trying to increase the sales in your business, you really want to make sure that the conversations that you're having are with people who are most likely to buy. Here's when you know you're not in that kind of conversation. When you're talking to somebody who you feel like you have to educate them on what you sell first, and then you have to try to inspire hunger and desire and try to get them to want to work with you, then you have created an extra step which isn't necessary at all. For example, if somebody says to me, why would anybody want to hire a business coach? That's not the person that I'm going to spend my time and attention on. I'm spending my time and attention on people who've already raised their hands and say, I need some help in my business. I'm just not sure if you can help me, Allison. So can you let me know what you do to see if you're the one that may be the person to help me here? So they already know at some level that they need help. They may or may not have invested in a mentor before, but at some level they're feeling like, you know what, I know that to grow a business I probably need a little bit of help every once in a while, or maybe I need help all the time, whatever it is, but at some level they already know that they're looking for help and support. That's the kind of person that I want to be spending my sales efforts on. I'm not going to be educating anyone on what business coaching is and what the benefits of business coaching is. So if you're finding yourself in a lot of conversations around what your thing is, what your product is, what your service is, like sometimes I spoke at the International Virtual Assistants Association, and I had a couple of people say to me, well, how do you close the sale when people don't even get what a virtual assistant is? And my answer was, if they don't get what a virtual assistant is, you're talking to the wrong person. I mean, you don't have to convince me that a virtual assistant is critical for a solopreneur kind of business. I can't do it all myself, so I need somebody to respond to emails, to make some phone calls for me, all that stuff. So I'm already convinced that I need help, and I may or may not know that it's called a virtual assistant, but I need help, right? So if you're talking to people who go, no, I don't hire help in my business, I do everything myself, that's the wrong person if you're a virtual assistant, right? If you're a bookkeeper and somebody's saying, well, I can't outsource bookkeeping right now, that's not something I want to pay for. Wrong person. You want to be talking to the person who says, oh my gosh, I can't stand bookkeeping. I can't stand doing the books. That's not what I want to do. I just want to run my business. Can somebody please just come rescue me from this, right? At some level, they already desire what you have. Now, I'm not saying that you never want to educate people on what you do, but when it comes to having sales conversations, you want to make sure that your efforts are focused on the people who are most likely to buy. And the people who are most likely to buy are the people who at some level already appreciate the value of what you do. They may not know totally what it is, because I've had clients who've never had a business coach before, and I was their first business coach, and that was fine. But they learned about what I did through something like this, like a webinar, right? And that's okay, but you don't want to be spending a lot of time and effort going after people who just don't get what you do, okay? So by way of, I share a lot of examples when I share specific strategies. So Amy does social media marketing, and one of the things that she and I worked on was the fact that people would call her. I think her webpage worked really well, or whatever avenue she was doing for lead generation, that worked really well. But then they'd get into a conversation with her, and by the end when she quoted her rates, they were like, ooh, gosh, that's a lot higher than I thought it was. I didn't think it would be that much for, having somebody help me out with social media. And she was very frustrated at that point and was ready to throw in the towel. She goes, Allison, I'm talented at a whole lot of other things, so if I really need to just stop doing social media marketing and do something else, I can do that too. And I said, well, wait a second, before we throw in the towel, let's figure out who's ideal for you. Like, who's the ideal person for you? And of course, she said, like a lot of business owners say, well, small business owners. Well, small business owners could be one-person businesses. It could be 100-person businesses. It could be male. It could be female. It could be in the financial industry. It could be in the, webmaster industry. It could be in, it could be in anything, coaching industry. So you have to make sure that you are clear on exactly the profile of the person who's right for you. So for her, some of the work that we did, I initially gave her my 10-point viability checklist, an ideal client checklist, and she went through that to figure out who would actually be ideal for her. It turned out it wasn't just generically business owners. It was business owners who are already making six figures. They want some help in specific areas of their business, social media being one of them. They don't want to hire anybody on board, but they want to outsource it. They have enough funds to outsource. They're not like hurting to outsource, but they're not wanting to bring somebody in internally and pay benefits and all of that. So for her, knowing that gave her the right words to use on her website, the right words to use when she's out speaking, the right words to use on her business card, so that she's able to attract just that person. And so what I see is a lot of business owners don't take the time to roll up their sleeves and really do the work that's necessary to figure out what is the profile of the ideal person that will most likely want what they have. So if you haven't done that in your business, you definitely want to do that. When I was working with Amy, within a couple of weeks, she raised her prices, and it was funny because she raised it 25%, and then in the end she raised it a total of 40%. But it was interesting because once she got clear on exactly who was right for her, she knew who to not waste her time with. So most of her efforts shifted to working with people who were more ideal for her. And what that did for her business is that she was able to raise her rates 40% rather than throwing in the towel and going, okay, no, I don't know if this is going to work. That clarity of knowing exactly who's right for you does a couple of things. Not only does it raise your confidence, but it tells you exactly where to look for that person and exactly where not to look for that person. It also tells you pretty instantly in the beginning of a sales conversation, is this the right person for me, or is this not the right person for me? And so she had a clear profile of who would be right for her and who would be not, and that facilitated the process of increasing sales for her because she was no longer wasting time with people who are not a good fit. So let's talk now about how to authentically inspire hunger and desire for your services when you meet ideal prospects. This is where you begin to recognize that you are not in business to sell products and services. A lot of times when people ask us about what we do, we focus on us, we focus on what we have to offer, which actually undermines sales. What creates sales is knowing that you sell a solution to a problem. You're not selling products, you're not selling services, you're selling a solution to a problem. You have to position what you say in a solution-oriented way, not in a product-oriented way, not in a service-oriented way, not in an accolades-oriented way, not in a credential-oriented way, but in a solution-focused way. When you get clear on what you're truly selling, the customer can't help but be drawn to what you offer, and the sale becomes much easier because it's magnetic. You're speaking their language, the language of your target market, and what you say resonates strongly with what you want because what you say sounds like a solution. It doesn't sound like a product. It doesn't sound like a service. It literally sounds like a solution to a problem that they were just up at night worried about. So here's an example here. This is a client of mine who is a makeup artist and also a model. When she came to me, she had a similar problem to the woman before. For her, she did mostly makeup for young brides. So the phone would ring, somebody would say, hey, my wedding's coming up at the end of October. Are you available? Yes, I'm available. The next question out of their mouths was, how much do you charge? How to respond to how much do you charge is very important, because if you go down the path of just answering the question, then the entire conversation is all around the packages that you sell. You want the entire conversation to be all around the value of what you deliver, okay? Not the packages that you sell. So what you want to shift, and what we did with Melissa was, I said, well, walk me through your sales conversation, and I will stop you at points where you can tweak it, and that's kind of how I work with the business owners. Tell me what you say. I'm going to be doing this on the Business Transformation Show on Friday, is tell me what you say and where you feel you're tripping up, and then we'll fix it, okay? So with her, I did that, and she said, well, in the beginning, they asked me, how much do you charge? And I said, okay, so how do you respond to that? Oh, well, I tell them there are 3 different packages I have, and I went, whoa, okay, so that's where things are going bad in the beginning of the conversation. There's some other things we tweaked as well. For those of you who are listening, if you're in the sales conversation and somebody says, how much do you charge? The answer is always, well, I actually charge a few different things. Would you mind if I asked you a few questions first? Okay, let me repeat that. I actually charge a few different things. Would you mind if I asked you a few questions first? What does that do? I've never had anybody say no to that. What does that do? It gives you the opportunity to get back in the driver's seat of the conversation, okay? Because you want to be in the interviewing seat, okay? You want to interview your client to see if they're the right fit for you and to help them see if you're the right fit for them. So you want to be in the position where you're asking a lot of questions about what it is they want. We'll get to that in a second. But you don't want to just go straight for pricing and packages, because that shifts their mind to the packages. And you as a business owner, you have value to what you do, not just prices. So you want to be focused on the value, and you want to make sure that the conversation allows you to really highlight and showcase your value. So that's what we did for Melissa, is change that first part where she's no longer answering how much you charge first, but she's actually having a really enlightening conversation about what they want. The second part about what we changed for her was, remember she was talking all about packages. Well, I have the mother of the bride and the bride package, and I have a package for the entire bridal party. I have a package just for the husband and, the bride and the groom, and yes, grooms put makeup on too. I have a package for the bride and the groom. So she had all these packages, right? And that was the entire focus of the conversation. So I started doing what I refer to as a brilliance interview with her, where, when I'm working with a client to help them tweak their sales conversation, I do a brilliance interview. So what is it that you sell? And why do people like it? And what do they like about it? And I do that because most business owners are so brilliant at what they do that they fall out of touch with the value of what they do. They understand what they do is really cool work and really valuable work, but they become out of touch with how to articulate that in a really powerful way such that it inspires hunger and desire. Okay, so with Melissa, I did that brilliance interview with her to really uncover and unearth why are people loving what you do with them. And on the surface, it may seem like, well, they're just happy it's their wedding day, right? But there's some specific things that people wanted in their work with her, and if she got in touch with that, what she said would be way more powerful. So I did that brilliance interview with her, and I helped her to see that they're not buying makeup, okay? What they're buying is, I want to look like I just stepped out of Bride magazine on my wedding day. I don't want my face to look all shiny after 2 hours because this is going to be a really long day. We've got the ceremony at the church, and we've got the reception afterward, and we have to take pictures. I don't want to be shining in my pictures. I don't want my pictures to come out all shiny. So once I interviewed her on what people really wanted when they when they were really working with them, she changed the structure of her sales conversation. First of all, asking a lot of questions up front to understand what they need and what they want and what they don't want, and then articulating the value of what she did in a really powerful way. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute. I'm going to show you some value statements too. But the value for her, for example, was instead of saying, okay, so I have this package, she had a little pause there. She had the opportunity to talk about the value of what she did, and that sounded more like, well, one of the things that I do with my brides is I put this foundation, this pre-foundation below your foundation, which actually allows your face to remain shine-free for up to 6 hours. Okay, so that's value. It's like, oh, okay, so now I don't have to worry about my face becoming shiny anymore. See how I took the I don't want to be shiny, and I helped her to articulate it in a way that showed the value of what she did. It had nothing to do with packages. It had everything to do with what the person really wanted. And what she said shifted depending on what the person says they wanted, which is why I don't use scripts. Is listen to what people say they want and respond to precisely that, okay? So with her, 2 weeks after she did this, I gave her a bunch of questions, potential questions she could ask. She didn't have to use every single one of them, but just as a guide for how to ask the prospect what they wanted. And within a couple of weeks, she came back to me. She was in a 90-day program with me and came back to me and said, I can't believe this, but every person that I spoke with, when I went through this process of really asking them what they wanted and had some really great questions around what they wanted, and then I just responded to that, all of a sudden the people became eager to work with me even before I said how much it's going to cost. Okay, and that was her powerful transformation. It's that people became eager to work with her before she even said the price. Okay, they were like, oh my gosh, I have to work with you. I haven't met anybody like you. I haven't talked to any makeup artists that do what you do. And I'm sure there's a million other makeup artists that do what she does. She just happened to articulate it in a really powerful way, and I call that client magnetic language, which I'll show you in a second. For those of you who may have come in late, just a reminder where the handout is, greatsmallbusinessadvice.com PPS handout, and the link is also in the chat box as well. Okay, so let's move on to what to say in a sales conversation to turn prospects into paying clients. This is where you ditch the pitch. For most sales conversations, the person who's doing the selling does most of the talking. Often they do way more talking than they really need to. The problem is when you do most of the talking, your prospect is beginning to feel pressured and being talked at. And it sounds like you're trying to sell them on something. And you often lose the sale when you're the one doing most of the talking. When a conversation is happening, it's a two-way conversation where the prospect is actually responding to your questions. You're sort of interviewing them on what they want. They're doing most of the talking. They're talking about the challenge they have, why they have the challenge, how the challenge came up, what they tried already to solve the challenge, did it work, did it not work. The sale is much more likely to happen if your conversation is that way. Okay? So let's talk a little bit more about the conversation. I'm going to skip past a couple of things here. This is Larissa, who I did a sales makeover with, and on a Wednesday she was in one of my sales training classes, and I was teaching how to restructure the sales conversation. For her, she was so brilliant at being a tax coach that she talked too much about the technicalities of what you need to do on your tax return or during the year to save money on taxes. What do people want? They just want to save money on taxes, right? And so for her, for business owners, she helps most business owners to recover at least $5,000 from the previous year. Any new clients she's just awesome. Any new client that she takes on, she helps them save probably about $5,000. She pulls $5,000 that they missed the former year and helps them to save even more. For 6- and 7-figure entrepreneurs, especially 7-figure entrepreneurs, which is another niche for her, she's helping them save, like a client she just closed a sale on, she helped him save $500,000 in taxes over the next year, okay, because he's a multimillionaire, okay, so multimillionaires pay a lot in taxes, and so she's helping him save a tremendous amount. But her challenge was, how do you articulate that, right? How do you articulate to people what they need to do in working with you? So for her, same thing. We did that makeover of really trying to understand what you say inside of the sales conversation. So let's just dive into a little bit of that, because for her, she went from charging $1,000 to charging $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. She closed a $25,000 sale the other day, and the other day had a $50,000 day as well. So let's talk about a little bit about what that looks like when you make that shift, okay? Now, inside of my integrity-based sales training, I cover all of these things, right? How to infuse the sales conversation with powerful client magnetic languaging. Then we talk about how to eliminate fear and anxiety and shift into amazing confidence in your sales conversation. We also talk about how to virtually eliminate those objections from the sales conversation. We talk about what to say and how to say it, and the specific 6 phases for what you're doing to create more sales on the spot. And then we talk about how to eliminate refunds and have clients eager to stick with you. What I'm going to do is focus on the part of the sales conversation that's this piece, right? The 6 phases of closing sales on the spot. I'm going to pull out one piece. We certainly can't go through all 6 now. I actually do that in a 6-hour training. But I'm going to pull out a couple of pieces that I think are really, really powerful. Now, this little line up here represents the fact that 90% of the sales conversation is actually the prospect doing the talking, not you. It's the prospect doing the talking. In a 60-minute sales conversation, I am talking probably 5% of the time. Okay, but what I'm going to pull out from the 6 phases here are these 2 phases, problem discovery and making your offer. So let's dive into that a little bit more. Okay, so we talked about problem, making sure you really understand the depth of the problem the person is having and the impact it's having on their world as well. I like to understand the impact it's having on your world. So I know specifically what you're trying to change. I'm not just coaching people on how to get more clients and close more sales. I know I'm pretty much in touch with the impact that people want to experience. It's not just clients, it's not just sales, it's not just revenue. They want to do things like take more vacations. They want to do things like, other impacts that money will have on their lives when they're able to increase their revenue. So I ask a lot of questions around not only the problems that they're experiencing with getting clients and sales, but why they want to change, right? I want to have that in the back of my mind when I'm working with a client if they sign up to work with me. And so here's where people make the mistake, right? They talk about the problem, and then they skip the value part, and they go straight to, and here's what I sell and what the packages are. You want to pause and talk about the value of what you do, okay? So let me share an example of that. So hold this image in your mind, right? So it's problem, then you talk about what you sell in two different phases, the value and the actual deliverables, okay? The deliverables is how much it costs, how many weeks it is, how many sessions it is, how long the project's going to take, all of that is deliverables, right? But then there's value that you talk about. So let me give you an example of what talking about value sounds like. This is Jeannie Penland, and I put her phone number on here because ADD and ADHD is such a widely spread thing that people go, what's her phone number? I need to talk to her. Because she literally helps you eliminate the underlying causes of ADD and ADHD in probably about a week to 2 weeks. Her work is just amazing. She's worked with over 400 people at this point. And has had a track record of just amazing results with people who struggle with ADD and ADHD. But for her, let's say she's on the phone with one of her prospects who is wanting to talk to her, say a parent who is living a nightmare with 2 children in the home suffering with the symptoms of ADD and ADHD, which, by the way, is not uncommon that strikes more than once in a home. Let's say this person is a parent that's waking up every day and the child is angry and arguing and defiant and explosive, and then the other child has issues with attention span, can't focus, forgets things. This parent is talking about how hopeless she's feeling, how friends are telling her to give their child medicines or supplements, or they're getting all kinds of parenting advice because of misbehavior from the child, and they're feeling like they can't handle the pain and the frustration anymore. They've tried everything. It's not helping. Now, Jeannie's on the other end of the phone hearing this story, and she can help. In her sales conversation, she's not talking about prices and packages. She's talking value. And here's what value sounds like for Jeannie, okay? And it's completely different for each person, but here's an example of how Jeannie would respond in a sales conversation after having heard this, okay? She would say something like, well, you know, Allison, in situations like yours, what we'll first do is use a process to double-check that your kids can indeed be helped by this new non-medical technology. And if we can, then within 1 month or less, we'll be able to resolve the main underlying causes of ADD and ADHD symptoms. Within the first week, you'll most likely find that both Adam and Chrissy, you know, assuming these are the names of the children, both Adam and Chrissy will quickly become even-tempered, cheerful, pleasant, engaging, and focused. And that's without medication of any kind, so you don't have to worry about pills and supplements at all. And during that time, Allison, you'll begin to see all of the fighting and defiant behavior begin to dissipate, and they'll both become very calm and focused doing their homework at night. You may even catch them reading for longer periods of time without getting fidgety. And they'll also seem much more responsible because their attention span and their focus will be back to normal. And best of all, Allison, your own stress and frustration will be eliminated, and that, I can guarantee you, will bring a refreshing level of peace and harmony back into your home. Now notice, this has nothing to do with packages and prices and how long she's going to be working with them and sessions, nothing to do with that. She is simply responding to what she heard from this parent who's really, really frustrated. Okay, so that's a really great example of what value sounds like inside of a sales conversation. And as I go along here, guys, feel free to put your questions in the chat box because we're going to wrap up in about 15 minutes or so, 10, 15 minutes, and we'll see if we can get to a couple of questions as well. So let's talk about how to have ideal prospects all say, it's almost instinctively say, how can I work with you? Now, the way that I would say Jeannie would have responded to that parent with a child with ADD and ADHD certainly would inspire hunger and desire, right? Because she did a really magnificent job of talking about the value of what she did. But I wanted to give you guys another example of what value looks like when you meet a prospect for the first time. Maybe you're not inside of the sales conversation yet, but you still want to use what I call client magnetic languaging. And client magnetic languaging is a term that I made up and trademarked because of the power that I saw when I used it with my clients, okay? So this is Susan. She's a bed and breakfast coach. She coaches people on how to start their own bed and breakfast business, and she uses client magnetic languaging in her sales conversations. But what I wanted to show you is an example of what client magnetic languaging looks like if you met somebody. And I'm going to use just one example here because I know we're running short on time. But basically, when you're out there talking about your products and services, you want to make sure that you're not talking about products and services. You're talking about value. So when you're going to, say, a networking meeting and somebody says, so what do you do? Right? Most people talk about products, services, how long they've been in business, things like that, right? And you want to not talk about that. You want to talk about the value of what you do, because the value of what you do speaks more to the solution that you provide and how you can help people than it does to the products and services, right? If you're talking to somebody and you're talking about the solutions you provide, all of a sudden they're thinking, oh my gosh, I have that problem. If you're talking about products and services, instinctively human beings will go, I don't want to buy, I don't want to buy, I'm not buying anything, I'm not buying anything, I'm not buying anything. And they begin to tune you out because you begin to sound like a sales pitch, because you're saying, well, what I do is I have, say you do social media consulting. And you go, what I do is I put up Facebook pages for people, and I help them monitor this on social media. I help them build their presence on social media. And yes, that's what you do, but it doesn't speak to the problem that solves. Like, what does putting up a Facebook page do for a business owner? Get in touch with that and talk about that instead of talking about just the pages, the product pages and all of that, okay? So let me show you an example of client magnetic languaging in action, okay? Like I said, in how you describe what you do to other people, every single client I've done a makeover like this for has gone out and gotten what I call a head-turning response. Like, they say it, and as the words fall out of their mouths, somebody says, oh my gosh, I need to call you. Oh my gosh, I need to work with you, right? I had a client who, I wish I had her story in here, but she was going to networking meetings for 2 years and never had anybody respond. And then I sat down on the phone with her and reconstructed what she said and turned it into a 45-second, really powerful, and you'll see an example of that here in a second, really powerful description. And she went out for the first time with that particular description, and what happened for her is that she went to a meeting with 20 women. She's a life coach. She went to a meeting with 20 women and called me later, which was in a later coaching session with me, and she said, it absolutely works. And I said, well, tell me more about it. She goes, well, 20 women responded when I said my 45-second thing. And I was like, wow, how many people were in the room? She said 20 women. Right? I'm like, oh my gosh, so you got 100% response rate from saying what you did, right? It was really, really powerful. This is not her example that I'm using here, but this is equally as powerful. This was a client of mine who is, she does video and photography, video and photography. Now, this is what people typically say in a networking meeting, right? So say she's in a networking meeting, she stands up, she says, oh, well, what do you do? Well, my name is, and I do infant and family photography, and also do video. I do birthday parties, and I also do a lot of infant photography, and also when, the woman is pregnant, I'll take some pregnant shots of her and all that. Absolutely true, and you do know what she does, but man, there's a much more powerful way to talk about that. So here's the makeover that I did for her. So this is what she would stand up and say now. She would say, okay, if somebody gave her the space to say her 45-second, 30 to 60 section, I partner with moms who want forever not only capture the memories, but their child for years to come. And here's the cool thing, okay? How you can tell storytelling format a lot to networking, and they go to pitching to use to tell a story. Don't just stand up and rattle it off from memory. Tell a story. Okay, so when I read it, I didn't say I with new and expectant moms who went forever to memory. I didn't say it like that, right? I paused and I said, I partner with new and expectant moms who but it creates a thing years to come. It's kind of like storytelling. It's not just rattling off a memorized statement, okay? So that's what I want to invite you guys to think about when you are talking either inside of a sales conversation. Okay? We have about 10 minutes left. If anybody wants to write down what they say, then somebody asks you on that. And I know sometimes, so I'll do a recap while you guys are thinking about whether you have questions. If you want me to do a little mini makeover, that's fine. Here's a quick recap of what we've covered in our training today. Stop talking to the wrong prospects and instead focus on people who are truly hungry for what you have. And that's a lot around making sure that your attention is focused on people who already at some level value what you do. Don't sell products and services. Don't talk about products and services. Talk about solutions to specific problems and what you see as solutions to specific problems that you solve for people. Don't speak what I refer to as product ease and expertise. This is where you're talking about all the products and how much you're an expert at what you do. You don't want to do that. You want to focus on client magnetic languaging, really powerful languaging that articulates the power and the value of what you do in such a powerful way that if you are in front of your ideal prospect, they absolutely would turn their heads and go, wait a minute, what did you say? What do you do? Right? It has to be that powerful. Instead of those heavy canned pitches and scripts and rigid scripts and lengthy service descriptions, you want to move away from that and simply use the sales conversation to explore whether there's a mutual fit. In the beginning, I talked about not going into the sales conversation with the intent to close the sale. I did a video quite a while back. It's somewhere on my blog where I talk about the 4 goals in a sales conversation. My goal in a sales conversation is not to make sure you buy. My goal is to discover if there truly and authentically is a mutual fit. You do that by asking questions and also by making sure you give the person everything they need to make a decision right there on the spot, and that comes in the shape of really talking about the value of what you do. So when I go into a sales conversation, my goals are this. Number 1, are you the right fit for me? Okay, I want to know if you are someone that I will wake up every day and have fun and joy speaking to. Sometimes that's not the case, and I have to say I don't think it's a really good fit. Okay, my second goal in the sales conversation is to discover if the challenges you're bringing to the table is something I'm truly masterful at resolving. I'm not going to take on a client who wants me to do something that I don't feel masterful at resolving. My third goal in the sales conversation is, will I really have fun helping you address these challenges? There's a lot of things that I know how to do because I've invested so heavily in myself. But I don't want to teach some of the things that I actually know how to do. And so I am listening in the sales conversation to discover, are the challenges you're bringing to the table something I'll have a whole lot of fun helping you address? Okay? The fourth goal for me in a sales conversation is, did I describe the value of what I do clearly enough so that my prospect has everything they need to make a decision right there on the spot? And that comes out of making sure I do a real good discovery of what they want and making sure that I do a really good delivery of responding to what they want in a really clear, specific, powerful, magnetic, and very value-based way. Okay? So I know I've shared a lot here, and some of you may want to take this a little bit further. So as promised, I'll let you know how to do that, and I'll do so now. There may be some of you who want to really turn around the sales conversations that you're having and you're looking for some help in how to do that. You can feel free to go to greatsmallbusinessadvice.com sales breakthrough and see if that free opportunity for a sales breakthrough session is a match for you. There should be a video over there, and you can feel free to sign up for a sales breakthrough over there. Like I said in the beginning, my ideal prospects are people who are consultants, coaches, CPAs, and others who sell a professional service. So feel free to access a sales breakthrough session if that feels like it would be the right fit for you. I only do 6 of these a month, actually, and I've opened up those 6 spots here for Practice Pay Solutions. So if that feels like it's the right fit for you, feel free to grab a spot, and I'd be happy to chat with you about that. So that's all I have for you guys today, and thank you so much for your attention and for being with me going through how to turn prospects into paying clients.
Wonderful. Allison, that was just great. There's some fabulous, fabulous information here. I've taken a lot of notes, and just some of your points were so well taken. Just how to put that value language there so that people are just hungry for what you do. Just absolutely great. And I don't have any questions coming from the audience just at the moment. I thought we might have, but nothing came through. So I think we are just ready to wrap up. Is there any final words you'd like to leave for us?
Yeah, sure. My thing with sales conversations is to see sales as a service. A lot of times people, I talk to a lot of business owners who go, I hate sales, I really hate sales. Right. And you have to switch that in your brain, right? Sales is really just an exchange of value. We happen to use dollars in our economy as an exchange of value, but it's really, I'm going to serve you at the highest level, and in exchange, I get to earn the money for it. A statement that I often make with people is, to not be afraid to accept financial abundance in exchange for your decision to share your value and your gift with the world, such that it impacts and it changes lives. Do not be afraid or embarrassed to accept amazing financial abundance in exchange for that.
Wonderful. Thank you. Very inspiring, Allison.
You're welcome.
So thank you on behalf of Empower Consulting and also the Practice Pay Solutions people. And we look forward to the next Business Mastery Series webinar. And Allison, thank you so much for your presentation today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Bye-bye, everyone.